Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers with the Starter Girls. I'm Jennifer Loading.
And I'm Brianna Drelas, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, magic makers, and the dreamers.
These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photographer of Glad Models Agency. If you are here in the Dallas or surrounding area, check out Walt Mills. You can learn more about him at photosbywalt.com. And to our audience that are watching this, we are in a new spot today.
Woo-hoo!
Yes. We're at the lovely Staycation here in Richardson, and this is my first time here. So how about you, Brianna?
This is actually my second time, but first time spending more than 2 minutes, I guess.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a cute little place.
It's adorable, and I have a ton of friends who come here, and they love it. They rave about it. They love you.
Awesome.
We are so happy to have you in Richardson.
All right. So we have Nicole Gregory here, and we're so excited because this is her place. And so we're super excited to chat with her today and tell our listeners a little bit about her. But I want to give our listeners a little bit of nuggets on you so they know who you are, Nicole.
Yeah.
She's the owner of Staycation, a cute coffee shop here in Richardson, the third oldest of 12 children. Nicole says that being raised in a unique upbringing gave her a wide range of diversity and perspective and life experiences. She came to love the simple things in life. She says she moved to NYC after a divorce, got her first job in coffee, and knew it was what she wanted to do from then on. She wanted Staycation to be geared towards the old idea of coffee shops, a space where people exchange ideas and stories, a place of gathering with friends and neighbors, a place to pause and enjoy this beverage the majority of us think as let me shoot it and go.
Very true.
I love it. That is so true. So welcome, Nicole. Thank you for allowing us to be here, and welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So this is going to be fun.
It is fun. And so what we're excited about also is that as Behind the Dreamers evolves as a podcast, we're basically taking it, in addition to studio, we're also taking it local. So this is our first local filming for the year, for 2022.
That's amazing.
So we're excited that we're doing it here.
Yeah, it's fun to have you guys here.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Awesome. So I think we need to roll this off here, get going here. So Nicole, I was reading in your bio a little bit about how this all came about. So we got to find our right notes here. Thank you.
I got you.
And I noticed in there you mentioned about your upbringing. So I want to start off with that. Tell us a little bit about that and how that influenced this Staycation creation.
Yeah, for sure. So upbringing, I guess to keep it in like the simplest forms here, probably the closest thing I can compare it to would be Mennonite. So I was raised very much in a lifestyle of, kind of a little bit off the grid, grew up on a farm, cooked everything, made our own bread, our own butter, learned how to sew. So I think having those ideals instilled into me as a child, of course, when I grew up and could leave the house, I was like, I want to get as far away as I can from all of it. I want to go to the big city and do all of these things. But the older I've gotten, I think all of those things that I grew up with have become things that I treasure. And so with Staycation and the brand and the coffee shop, I wanted to bring this idea of like the simplicity of life and slowing down and, let's enjoy a cup of coffee and have a pause and have a conversation with someone, and just bring those components back into, I think, the coffee shop world. I think a lot of it now is kind of geared more towards like workers, which is great, because they need their space. But I wanted to pull in those ideas of like simplicity, slowing down, taking some time to really just enjoy it,
That is so great.
Where are you originally from?
Originally from here. I grew up about an hour and a half north of here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you were saying,
Were you thinking Pennsylvania?
No. Well, she said farms. You said farm. Am I correct? So I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking, like, where was she at?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
But Pennsylvania, we used to take like a yearly trip up to Pennsylvania.
Did you
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. We had a lot of like Mennonite friends up there. So yeah.
Well, and you mentioned New York, so I'm like, well, then that'd be very logical to go from Pennsylvania to New York because
They're
train
right there.
away.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I just wanted to know where you're from. But I think the idea here that I'm going with this is that you came from this kind of a culture of which a farm life. I'm I know some of that, and so I
Yeah.
can understand that's a very different lifestyle. And then you go to New York City, the city.
Yeah. I really pick like the city.
Right,
you know?
right, exactly. It's like culture shock, I'm sure. You're like, here, you go to there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, for
going
sure.
from that farm life to the city.
For sure. There was a little bit of a break in between because it was after, so I got married really young, and it was kind of one of those like first love things and crazy wild, marriage, and left that. And so I was a little bit older when I went, but it was my first time like getting away from small town, and lived there in New York City. And I just needed a change of pace, and I needed a different canvas, honestly, to start with. So the experience, I think for me, it's where I first got into coffee. I worked at, a coffee shop bakery there in the city, like in Chelsea Market. And it was, I don't know, I think I grew so much as a person. And it was there that I found my love of this. Like, I remember the first day I stepped into that space and I was just like, oh my God, I'm in love. Like, I love the feel. I love the sound. I love the smells. I love my interaction with people. And living in the city, it wasn't even so much of a culture shock to me. I think for me, it was more of a time of excitement and a time of extreme growth.
Right.
So,
And exploration and
yes,
all of it.
absolutely.
That's so great. I love
Yeah.
that.
wow. So that's where you birthed this idea. I think that's awesome. And then came here. So tell us a little bit about I want to know, because I've obviously not been here when there are a lot of people in here. Do you have an ideal type of client that's coming in here? Or are you just getting all kinds of everybody?
I'm getting a little bit of everybody, which is what I wanted. And I think that's what makes me so happy about this space. I really think that like diversity and community is so beautiful. And I think, within the past couple of years, we've kind of, with everything we've all been through, politically and everything, you see us sectioning off a little bit. And for me, having the diversity and community is it's something I'm really, really passionate about. And so having this space and seeing like, the mothers come in with their children, and then seeing the young workers, the young professionals come in, and then seeing your teenagers come in, it really has been this crazy mix of everybody. And for me, it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And so to see this coming to life in a way that I had envisioned it, I think is the most fulfilling, it's just the most fulfilling thing. So
It's really special.
yeah.
And tell our listeners, how long have you been in existence here?
We opened November 22nd.
Okay.
So going on 3 months. So very new.
Oh, very new.
Yeah, very
Wow,
new.
how exciting.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to say something about that. So
Yeah.
we're talking 3 months here. I was talking to a friend yesterday, because I know she comes in here, and we talked a little bit about her earlier, but I asked her what her favorite thing was about Staycation, or like what stands out, because we've got, everyone has choices for where they want to get their coffee and all this, right?
Yeah.
Well, she loves this place because she's been in here maybe 3 or 4 times over the past 3 months. She said by the second time, you knew her name, you know everybody's names, and you make everyone feel at home and welcome. And to me, that's such a lost art.
Yeah.
Like taking the time to acknowledge who people are and see them and know their name. Like, it's just amazing. So I wanted to share that with you because
That's
it's
awesome.
really a testament to what you're doing here in the first 3 months that you've been open.
Yeah.
You've really made a powerful impression on
Yeah.
so many people.
It's really neat to hear that, like to hear you say that, because it's such an important thing to me. And I remember the first coffee shop, I was the opening general manager here in Dallas, and I had my head down and I was just like, numbers, right. We want to make this successful. And I remember someone who I see as a mentor at that time, and he was like, all I need you to do, every single person that comes through that door, I need you to know their name, and I need you to make them feel like they belong here. And he's like, and leave the numbers alone, because they're going to take care of themselves. And I automatically switched it in my brain, like, oh my goodness, he's right. Like, this is truly about the people walking through this store. And this is what this is what I love about coffee is like, you know, pretty much my entire community here in Dallas are customers of mine that I've had in years past. And it's people I've built relationship with and have this beautiful community around. And so being here, I'm like, I just want to know who you are. Like, I want to know your story. I want to know why you come here. I want you to feel at home here. So that means a lot because it's super, super important to me. So
It's great.
Yeah, and I was going to add, and that is impressive because you do go into a lot of places where I feel like, you know, I'll say this coming from the networking space. When you go out and you meet people that are doing businesses, I always say, you know, one, they need to know their story, but also, you know, why are they doing what they do? Because so often there's no relationship building that goes on. And what separates you from, say, another coffee place, right? Because anybody can walk into Starbucks or into any coffee place, but the difference is that extra personal touch. It's that customer service. And I think that, yes, knowing those little details, people don't forget that.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody's paying attention to that and you walk in and it's like, hey, Nicole, you're back.
yes, I know that's where I go. I mean, like
Yeah.
my favorite places aren't the places that have the best food or the best whatever. It's the places that I go into and they know who I am and they care enough to know. And I think that's the big thing is like when someone takes the time to know who I am, I know that they care, you know, and that little level of care makes all the difference. And at the end of the day, I'm like, this is what it's about. Like, it's about this human interaction, not just a transaction, but truly human interaction with each other. And I think sometimes we overlook that in, you know, our busy, we're all busy, right? We all have stuff going on, but I'm like, the thing that makes life beautiful are the people that we come in touch with every single day that I think so often we just treat as a transaction, you know?
I
So-
want to use my hands and get excited about what
I
you're saying
know.
right now. I really want to use my hands to say, I'm being way too calm right now because you're speaking my language, lady.
You are not a transaction, okay?
We are not doing transactions here. It just drives me crazy. Transactional business. It's like everything is like a transactional business. And it's making me think right now of Stephen Covey's book, Seven Habits of the Highly Effective.
Yes.
It talks about what do you worry about, the goose or the egg, right? Like what are you taking care of here? Are you worried about the eggs or are you taking care of the goose?
Yes.
And so many business owners, even in bigger companies, they think their customers are the priority, massing customers, getting the customers, right? They need to take care of their people. They need to take care of their people. And guess what happens when you take care of the people? The people take care of the customers.
Absolutely.
And productivity and everything else goes up.
Yes.
It's like start with your people and
Yes.
yourself and how you're treating them around you.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, I could.
But I want to hold my hands still so I don't raise them up.
But it is true about the people. And I love that you brought that out because just the smallest example of like the ice storm that happened last week. And I know I had a lot of questions like, are you going to be open? Are you going to be open? Like, hey, just be open because like people really want their coffee right now. And I'm like, in order to be open, my team has to get out on the roads.
Right.
And if anything should happen to them, me asking them to do that, like first and foremost, I have to take care of them first.
Right.
Because in order for them to take care of the people well, they have to be taken care of well, you know? And I love that you mentioned that because it's like sometimes we do put our people at the expense of just let's get customers.
Yes.
But you know, your team, like my team, I could not do this without them. And they're my highest priority.
That's so awesome. You're giving me like warm, fuzzy feel. It's like, we got to get to a certain part of the podcast. Like, there's always that moment, that defining moment in the podcast where somebody says something. I'm like, yes, we're talking language now. So good. Well, I want to flip, I guess, the question a little bit on you because I feel like, you know, as business owners, and this is one of the things we try to show in our podcast is that as entrepreneurs, we know that not everything is roses every day and rainbows, right? Well, I guess I should say unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
It's not always unicorns and rainbows because we are operating businesses and every day we wake up with the mindset that we have to get back out there and do what we need to do. So my question to you is, what would you say was probably the biggest challenge in getting this thing up and running?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
There's always more than one
Okay.
thing.
Yep. There's always more than one thing. I think it was probably navigating. So when the company first, and this might be kind of a layered answer. So Staycation first started with me and a business partner. And we are putting small coffee bars in luxury office buildings in downtown, in the Dallas area. And that was going great, but this was all pre-COVID. COVID, of course, came, shut all the, the
Travel,
it shut it down. And so office buildings are a completely different landscape now. And so we kind of decided, hey, I was more on the cafe side of things, and he was just going in a different direction. So we were like, okay, let's split. And I think it was at that moment that I always wanted to do my own thing, and I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but I didn't expect for it to be this soon. It was always like, okay, that's my when I'm 42, goal. And so for me, it was really shifting into this space of, I'm doing this. Now is the time. What do I have to do to actually grow into being a solo business owner? What does that look like? And so I think it was taking that on, really, and then kind of just sitting back and allowing myself to recalibrate. Because I think at that moment, it's like you just think of push through, let's keep going. And for me, I think I had to step back a minute and sit and say, okay, let's recalibrate. What does this look like? And then pulling in people that could help me, and I think I tend to be a little bit more of a lone wolf, because I do have this mindset of like, whatever I set my mind to, I can do. Yes, I can do. I get that. But being able to say, oh no, I really need people right now around me. So that was probably my biggest struggle in getting this thing up and off of its feet, was just kind of finding my way again, bringing people in, realizing where I needed help, and not trying to just go it alone. So, yeah.
We talk about that so
Mm-hmm.
much.
Yeah.
It's just when you have a business, and even if, like, for example, we have two separate businesses, but I consider her part of my posse, my team.
The tribe.
Yeah, and it's so important to have that support. But you're right, because you do have to recognize where are the holes.
Yeah.
I can't do everything well, and then we have to humble ourselves to actually ask for support and put the right people in place, because I think the right people is key.
So important.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I do think there's a personality type that comes with an entrepreneur. And I think that personality type does lend itself to like, I can do this. I got this. Anything that comes my way, I'm going to rise to the occasion and do it. But then when I found myself just like really struggling and feeling super overwhelmed, I had to stop and make myself reach out. And it wasn't easy for me to do that, because it's not in my, it's not my personality type to be like, I need help. Can someone help? But I had to. And I think it's really helped me grow as a person and as a business owner, to be able to reach out when I'm like, no, I don't have this, this is not my wheelhouse, so.
Well, and I agree with you on the growth, because I think it does. A lot of entrepreneurs are solo. That's just what we do as entrepreneurs. We can take care of things, but I think it takes a certain amount of vulnerability to sit back and go, I'm not great at everything, and I recognize that. And, and I talk about that all the time, even in my journey, because I've been an entrepreneur for like 23 years. I've done it by myself. I've been on teams, and I'm so used to, probably you're the same way, doing things, because sometimes it's just easier to do it, than to have to explain it. But once you get to that place, I think, where you can say, I can be better if I can find people that want to be on my team and work with me, and they can bring their strengths to that. Together we can achieve so much more. So I think you've said a lot of really good, powerful points there. pivoting and having a team, and even just persisting through, having the grit and persistence.
Yeah. This was, it was a feat to take on. And I always say, you hear that whole thing of like, ignorance is bliss.
Right.
And I'm like, ignorance was bliss, because if I would have known the amount of work that would have gone into, first of all, flipping this house, and me and my brothers did all of the work. So we did all of the actual remodel in the house. I don't know if I would have taken it on.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I didn't know, because I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm like, oh my gosh, ignorance was bliss, and you get to that point where you just every day It's like, okay, what do I do now? I can walk away. No, I keep going. Okay, one more day. Okay. And you just,
That's what you do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's what I say. You wake up feeling broke every day, because you just know you got to get up and go again.
Exactly.
But, I think there is so much. I can say this personally for me, and you probably guys all, because we're all entrepreneurs in here, and I think we all like that satisfaction from that growth that we get. It's that we know every day that we've accomplished another step and we're moving into another space, you know. And so it's almost like just the challenge of it.
Yes.
Of saying, I did this one step.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember the one when people are like, was there ever a time that you were like, I'm walking away from this? I'm like, yes. When I was hanging the tile in the kitchen,
Right.
I had never done tile in a vertical, on a vertical wall. I had done it in the bathrooms and that was fine.
Okay.
When I was hanging the tile in the kitchen,
You're like,
and it was like 1:00 in the morning, and I looked over at my brother and I'm just like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, is this ever going to open? Is this ever going, flipping it from residential to commercial? And
the permits.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And the
Learned
city.
so much. But yeah, there was that moment where I'm just like, is this even worth it?
Right. Good thing you went to bed and slept all night.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Sleep always does the body
know.
good.
Yes.
I've had so many of those moments where I'm like,
I just need to go to bed.
10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm just done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And then I get up the next
And
morning.
you
and
wake
I'm
back
like,
up.
Here we go. Let's go.
Exactly.
We're at it.
What else are we doing?
Tomorrow is a brand new day.
Just sleep it off. It's funny too, because I don't know, Brianna and I are both early risers, and so I think there's something, at the end of the day, I always talk about this whole book, The Power of When, where they talk about we work off of like our circadian rhythm. And so at night, I get really, really, really tired. I don't want to make any permanent decisions after like 6 p.m. Like
That's
I
so
just don't
smart.
want to do it.
That's so smart.
It may be an emotional one.
Yes, yes.
We have to sleep it off till the next morning. So
I feel like I'm just learning this about myself, where I'll get home and I'm like, it's 8:00 and I'm like, okay, I need to. And my dear husband's like, put it away.
Put it away.
Leave it alone.
Yes.
Do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to shut it down.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, I can't change what happened. I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah. Where's my glass of wine?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Exactly.
Let me
Coffee-
do that.
coffee
Exactly.
wine.
Exactly. Exactly.
That might be the next one. So I know the other thing. I've lost what I wanted to ask her. Do you have a question you wanted to ask her? Because I had one in my head and then we got off on another.
Well, I wanted to kind of slip into, because this is perfect segue into, because we're talking about tomorrow's a brand new day, right? So even if we're feeling defeated the night before, wake up, brand new day, let's go. For you, this aligns with this question that we like to ask about, like, what keeps you in the game, like when the going gets tough, because this is new venture for you as far as owning the actual brick and mortar. And my husband and I just closed our restaurant after 7 years. So like I get this a lot. And so for you, I'm just curious, I know you've had those moments, but what's really keeping you like eye on the prize, focus forward, what's keeping you in the game?
Oh, that's such a good question. For me, I think I come back. I have to, my brain is pretty logical, right? So I have to think of everything very, very logically. And I know for me, it's a very intentional sitting down. Like I have my thing that I do. I go home and I sit down on my porch because I like to watch sunset, because there's something about sitting out and watching sunset that brings everything into perspective for me. And I have to remember the why, I think, behind it all. It's very easy for me to get caught up in I want everything to be exceptional. I want this to be, I want the customer to feel A, B, and C. I want the revenue to look like this. And I have to consistently remind myself about the why. And when I can kind of tear it all back down to why am I doing this and what is the foundation of it? And I can really sit in that moment and feel it and understand it and see it. It's what brings it back. It's what even brings back the passion of it. Because I do think that sometimes it's like you can be doing something that you absolutely love, and you lose that fire of it. You lose that passion of it sometimes. And so for me, I'm like, ultimately, you know, someone asked me, they're like, what is success to you in this? Like, and I'm like, success is, and I had to think on it in a moment. I'm like, honestly, success is this being the place that my soul wants it to be, which is a place of like community, which is a place of gathering, which is a place of building bridges, of people sitting down and having conversations with each other that they probably wouldn't have had anywhere else. And when I can sit there and remember that and feel the why again, and it's like, then it's like, oh, that's who I am. This is coming from my soul. This is coming from the part of me that it's a part of what I breathe and what I live. And so it really is like, when I get really just, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And like, it's a lot going on and it feels relentless. I was telling my husband this yesterday. I'm like, for the first time, I feel very tired and this feels relentless. And when I think of this being 2 more years, I'm like, or 3 more years or 4 more, or 5 more, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I had to sit, I literally went outside and I sat on my chair and I watched the sunset and I was just like, remember the why. And then from there, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in, you know? And so I know that looks different for every person, but I think because of how logical it has to be for me sometimes, I have to intentionally and logically take myself to a physical space, you know, that brings me back to perspective.
The feeling is so important too,
Yes.
because that's a physical response,
Yes.
right? And that physical response can inspire the action.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, when you're giving so much of yourself to something, like you're giving so much of your mental energy, your physical energy, your emotional energy, especially with, I mean, if y'all owned a restaurant, so that, you know, guest facing constant, you know, I think it's so important to go back to like the why of it all, you know, to re-up your energy again. And that's where I find mine is there, you know?
Smart.
It's good.
So
The why is important. Always is. It always, a lot of people, that's what I said earlier. A lot of people don't really understand their why, so they don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. And if you ask them, I mean, they'll, and I'm talking not necessarily brick and mortar, but maybe somebody out that owns, you know, a solo entrepreneur that has a small business, and you go and you talk to them and it's like, why are you doing what you're doing? And they're like, well, I'm just doing this. Well, in order to be passionate and to stay in the game, you're going to have to get really clear on why you're doing what you're doing.
so true.
Because there's going to be many moments where you're going to be like, let me throw in the towel right now. You know what I mean? So you've got to hang on to that. So I think
so true.
what you said there was so powerful, which is going to lead into what I want to ask you now. If somebody wanted to, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, tied to a coffee shop, because you've got a great thing going here, but if somebody wants to start either that or another business, what kind of advice would you offer them as a brand new coffee shop owner?
I would say, and this is just based on my current experience, very new to this, you know, being a business owner. For me, searching and seeking out people that are there as like encouragers, as inspiration, or as someone who can just say, oh, I get it. Oh, I know, has been my biggest help. I know, like, it's this idea of, I was talking to my sister, and she's a mother of 2 young kids, but before that, she, you know, she had her professional career. She's an art professor and, you know, did art shows, and she's an amazing artist. And she was like, you know, it's been interesting being a mom, because when I try to share my experience about like, hey, this is great and I love it, but there's also this and this, she's like, sometimes I feel guilty because people are like, but at least you can have kids and at least you are a mother. And there are so many women who do want to, she's like, but I just needed someone to say, oh yeah, totally get it. And I think with, you know, having a business and opening a coffee shop, which I think, you know, I've heard a lot of people like, oh, it's my dream one day to open a coffee shop, and oh my gosh, this must be so much fun. At the very beginning, I felt kind of guilty saying, I'm exhausted and like, this is hard and I love it so much and this is everything I could ever ask for. but I'm just exhausted and I need encouragement. And finding other people and business owners who could say, oh yeah, no, you don't need to feel guilty for saying that. Absolutely, it's exhausting. Absolutely, it's hard. And you're going to feel this way. So I mean, for me, just surrounding myself with a really good support system and not doing it alone, I think has been my biggest,
breakthrough.
Yes.
Yes. You said a lot of good things there
Well,
too.
and I
We got
think
lots of good nuggets.
we all need to hear that. It doesn't matter what type of business you're looking. I mean, I needed to be reminded of that because even today I was thinking, man, like I really need some support. I need some encouragement. I need this or that. And I haven't asked for it because either my pride's getting in the way or I'm just being stubborn. Because it's just
Probably
easier
both.
for me to do it myself, right?
We all do
But
it.
it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. And man, thank you. You were preaching to me.
Community.
Thank you.
There's a lot of community there, and I think that when you're in business, and I agree with you on the idea that you gotta share your complaints or whatever, your vision, all of it, everything about your business with the right people, because you're not looking for everybody to find the solution for you. You're just looking for them to say, I hear you. I know where you're coming from. I hear you. Or maybe I don't know where you're coming from, but I hear you.
Yes.
You know, and that's what I think is so great about like what you've even displayed here, because like I said in the very beginning, so many times people go into business, and I will say this personally from having worked with women for so many years, they will come into a business and they think there's never going to be a moment that you're going to hate what you're doing, or there's never going to be a moment where you say I want to quit, or there's never going to be a moment where you're like it just isn't working the way I want to work, right? What separates those people from, the quitters from the ones that succeed is that we hang on to the vision, our why. Yes. We get up every day and we keep persisting. And I think that's what makes this all worth it. It's what brings it. It's those wins you're going to get on the other side at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
There's something, this is just a little side note, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, and I know I'm not going to pronounce it right, but I'm still going to talk about it because I just think it's so cool. But I don't know if you're familiar with the blue zones, the blue zones of the world, where it's like they have their highest concentration of people that live over 100, and they're known to be some of the happiest people.
Heard of this.
Yeah, and so they've had scientists that have actually gone and done some discovery on these places, and they're like, what are the common threads here in these different areas? And so they have like the 9 principles of the blue zones, right? And so one of them, and I'm not going to even try to pronounce it, but essentially it is why you wake up in the morning. And it's a Japanese word for it, and you'll have to go find it. Yeah. But it truly translates into the why.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning. And they were saying how as they talk to these people, they have this why of like, and I'm like, that's so powerful, because truly going back to the whole thing of like, it's the why, because if we didn't have that why there, it's like, then what?
Yeah. Right.
You
what
know?
are you doing every day?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a business why. It can be a why for
exactly.
anything. If you don't know why you're here or what you're doing,
Yeah.
you're just coasting through life, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
That would be boring.
I know, right?
Brianna and I would just be bored, wouldn't we? We don't know how to coast.
It's true. I can
Yeah,
coast.
coasting is.
I can coast for about a week and a half. That's about
And then
it.
after that,
yeah,
it's like,
oh my god.
I'm like a couple days of coasting, and I'm like, we got to get back on track. We got things to do.
I know the ice storm last week that hit after one day of being closed. I was just like, okay, I'm done. I need to go. What am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Yeah.
Was the word ikigai?
Yes, and that's how you say it, ikigai.
It's ikigai is a
Ikigai.
Japanese concept that means your reason for being. Iki
reason.
in Japan means life, and gai describes your value or worth. So your ikigai is your life purpose or your bliss.
That's good. Very cool.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
We got another nugget
Yeah.
to quote today. We got to give him the mic over there.
Right? I
Pop
love
him
that
in.
he looked. Yeah, thank
If
you.
we do it's like the Mystery Science Theater. We joke because he's always in the back, and then he'll chime in. Might give us a little bit
love
of
it.
tidbit of the nuggets. We like it. So
Yes.
this has been fun.
In honor of Vicky Guy, I will be going to get sushi tonight.
There you go. Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yes, this has been so great.
Yeah, I
We
think
had
we
some-
should do some quick rapid
Yeah,
fire
I think
with
so
it.
too.
Do you want to start, or you
I
want me to
do.
start?
I'm going to
Okay.
kick this off.
Okay, ready.
Okay, now forgive me if they're the same thing. I'm pretty sure they're not, but I'm going to go for this anyway.
Okay,
Espresso or drip?
drip.
Okay. I said it right?
Yep.
That's
Perfect.
good. All right. Let's see. Where is, I guess maybe your favorite travel place?
Oh, okay. I would have to say Santiago, Costa Rica.
I've not been there.
Favorite cuisine?
Mexican. My mother's Mexican.
My favorite food too. I'm coming to your house.
Oh.
I bet she's got real Mexican food.
Homemade flour tortillas.
Yeah, I'm getting excited.
Homemade. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Excited. We always somehow end up on a Mexican food conversation.
I know. I was about to say something else, but this is rapid fire, so my lips are sealed.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, first concert that you've ever attended.
Five Finger Death Punch.
Wow, I'm speechless.
I know.
Okay, I would love to know your favorite thing to shop for. Like if you were going to gift yourself with something, what would like be your go-to splurge item?
Shoes.
Shoes.
Okay, last question. What's in your Amazon cart right now?
A gallon of milk.
Awesome.
That's good.
That is good.
That's good. She totally popped that off fast.
Okay, and the reason I know is because every time I go to buy new Amazon stuff, that gallon of milk just sits there.
It sits in
It
there.
just sits there.
It's like saved. It's like if you're saved for later.
Yeah, so it's still there.
That's so funny. We always talk about the Amazon thing because we have it in our house. There's stuff in it again now, but I don't know. There's always stuff in our list that I don't put in the list.
Yeah. And
My
it just
kids
keeps
put it-
like,
yeah, my son gets in there and adds it, and he'll be like, "Hey, did you check the Amazon cart today?" I'm like, "No, I'm not buying all that.
yeah, no, take it out.
Save for later. Save for later. Save for later." This has been awesome. So I guess Nicole, tell us real quick where this little place is, so our audience knows where to come and check you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Address is 201 South Texas Street. We sit right outside of I think it's proper downtown Richardson. And we're the tiny home on the corner that says Staycation on the corner of Texas and Polk. Yeah. Yeah. I just realized too, I should probably put coffee and bites because a lot of people have said they thought we were a travel agency.
Oh.
I would concur.
Yes.
Well, you're doing
Coming
well.
soon.
Yeah, your people are showing
That's
up, and
cool.
obviously they love it here. So I think whatever you're doing is absolutely working. So
Awesome.
I
love
would
it.
agree.
So much fun.
Yeah. Well, we want to leave you with a few thoughts as well. So, in honor of Staycation and the coffee shop, here's a quote from Fran Drescher. "Once you wake up and smell the coffee, it's hard to go back to sleep."
that's awesome. That's awesome. All right.
yes.
That's awesome. To our listeners, of course, if you enjoy our podcast, please be sure you give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook because we can't do this without you, and hit that subscribe button. And the last thing, to live extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. All right, you guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We will see you next time.